Hello and welcome to another edition of Football Express. I'm Stephen Looney, and joining me in the studio today are Paul Leeman and Glenn Ferguson. You're both very welcome, gentlemen, as ever. Now, a quick recap of what's been going on in local football. We're going to look back at the results from last weekend in the Sports Direct Premiership. Friday, January the 10th, Larne 2, Cliftonville 0. Saturday, January 11th, Crusaders 1, Dungannon Swifts 5. Linfield 3, Carrick Rangers 0. Loughgall 0, Portadown 1. In the Bet McLean Cup semi-finals this week on Tuesday night, Glentoran 4, Crusaders 2 after extra time. Larne 0, Cliftonville 1 after extra time. And looking ahead to this weekend, it's the league again, Sports Direct Premiership fixtures. Friday night we'll have Dungannon Swifts against Glenavon, a bit of a Middlester derby there. Saturday, Carrick Rangers against Ballymena United. Cliftonville versus Loughgall. Coleraine versus Crusaders. Glentoran versus Larne. And Portadown versus Linfield. Paul and Glenn, I'm just going to preface the discussion with a sort of an overview of the state of play since we were last on air. Linfield lead the table with 51 points from 23 games. The Swifts doing magnificently, 39 from 24. Glentoran 38 from 23 games. Port's 37 from 23. And Larne are in 5th, 32 points from 18. That's 19 points behind Linfield with 5 games in hand, 4 points behind if Larne were to win all their outstanding fixtures. At the bottom, Loughgall in trouble, 13 points from 24, Carrick 21 from 22, Glenavon 25 from 23. Cups, we're getting into the business end of it. We have the County Antrim Shield final between Larne and Glentoran next Tuesday. Larne looking to win it for an incredible 5th year in a row. Glentoran's chance to win a trophy for the first time since 2020. Bet McLean Cup final on Sunday, March the 9th. Cliftonville Glentoran, another final for the Glens. Reds could add their Irish Cup success. So here we go, Paul. I'm going to start with you. I'm going to ask you, reading or listening to all that, which manager, team or group of supporters will be happy with their club at this stage of the season, happy with their team?
I think the big two will be happy in terms of Linfield are top of the league. That's where everyone wants to be. So they'll be happy to be top of the table. Glentoran will also be happy because, you know, they're now on a good run. They've got momentum. They're in 2 cup finals. So there's a lot to play for at Glentoran. And you look beyond that and you have to say Dungannon Swifts. You know, what they've done in a league where there's so much money floating about. A lot of clubs have got big budgets, full-time, you know, clubs, setups. And Dungannon are up there competing amongst those big teams in the league. So you have to say, you know, Rodney McAree will be delighted with what's going on there. He'll want that to continue. So for me, those will be the 3 teams that will be happiest at this moment in time.
Thanks, Paul. Glenn, something similar. I'm going to give some of the lesser lights, possibly. I don't mean to be sniffy, but you know, Dungannon and Portadown, I think they'd be very happy with their progress as well. We'll come to the big 2 and whatever in a minute, but Dungannon and Portadown, we've seen a lot of teams shoot up there and then come back down again. Dungannon, I think, hats off. I watched them demolish Crusaders last Saturday, and they're just excellent. Portadown, Niall Curry, he's going to shuffle the deck again this month. Can't knock what they're doing.
No, definitely not. You know, and Paul and I both, we sat with Decky on Monday and had a conversation about the game on Saturday, and he held his hands up and said Dungannon were far better. He says they were ruthless and attack. Didn't create too many chances, but when they did, they took them and were well worthy winners. You know, I think the brand of football that Rodney's brought into Dungannon, everybody knows that's why he likes to play, and he's got a good blender of some young players and a couple of experienced players as well. Bigorama is playing really well for him as well, you know, so he's got a good blender and it's working for him, which is the main thing, you know. The surface at Stangmore as well was going to suit their style of play, you know, so everything's going really well for them. Portadown to a certain extent as well. When you look, compared to Dungannon, the investment that Portadown put in at the start of the season with some of the players, you know, picking up the Shane McCartans and Aaron McCarry and boys like that, you know, they're big players, so you sort of expect Portadown to get results. They have picked up a lot of good results, but no, they've slipped away and they've lost matches as well, which you're going to expect. But I think both Niall Curry and Rodney will be delighted where they are at the minute. Some of the other teams, you know, the Coleraines and Ballymena will be not as happy as they were at the start of the season. You know, they've done a good run, but then they've done that horrible run, which, as you say, can drop teams down the table again. You know, so again, they've invested heavily as well. So they'll be looking for more of a turnaround and more consistent results.
Thanks, Glenn. I want to stay on Dungannon Swifts, if that's okay. Paul, I mean, Glenn is really speaking to Decky Cadell, and was very dejected on Saturday, but absolutely right. And Dungannon, honestly, I think you just have to admire what they're doing. They're two young fullbacks, Adam Glennie and Stephen Scott, superb, you know, and Gael, Begidi Manis, superb as well, Alves and John McGovern and whatever else. And again, we've given Rodney praise before, but what I like about Rodney is he's very adaptable. On Saturday, he wasn't afraid at all to play. He likes possession football, but he wasn't afraid to play it down the channels early or in round the back early to try and test Crusaders' defence with great success. So they're in clover, Paul. Can they sustain it? Or let's get to the nub of it. Come April, who's going to be challenging for the title?
I think come April again, listen, Dungannon, we've just said it there, it's been phenomenal what they've done in terms of the budget that they work on, and you've got to give Rodney and his team tremendous credit. But I think come the end of the season, I'll be surprised if they're still up where they are at this moment in time. I just think come the end of the season, I expect obviously Linfield are leading the league. Glentoran are in a good run, I expect them to be up there, and you're looking down the table now, and Larne are in 5th position. All of a sudden they do have the games in hand. They still have to win those games, but all of a sudden if Larne win those games in hand, they could put themselves back into the mix again, and there's still a lot of football to be played. So I would never rule Larne out, you know, given the quality that they have within their squad. So I would imagine come towards the end of the season, those are the teams that will be up there fighting for the title. Probably giving themselves too much to do in terms of the points gap. Linfield have got that cushion there, and you know they've just got to maintain that sort of consistency that they've had in the last few games, and it's hard to see past them.
Thanks, Paul. Glenn, again, we're going to get right to the heart of it. I have it down here. Can Larne make up the ground on Linfield? Larne were one of 3 big scalps in the Irish Cup as well. They lost to Limavady United. Anna United beat Portadown, and Ards beat Ballymena. 3 big scalps, as I say, in the Irish Cup. Now, in fairness to Larne, I thought they did very, very well in coming back and beating Crusaders and Cliftonville in the 2 next games. Had they stumbled or fallen, that's their season. Well, not over because Shield final's coming up, obviously, but it would have been a bad week. So, I'm not sure that Larne can make up the ground on Linfield, and that's no disrespect to Larne at all. I think they've got a fabulous team. It's just the congestion. It's just the games are coming so thick and fast. They're involved in the cups. I just think it's going to be hard for them to win all 5 games in hand and then make up the ground on Linfield. What do you think? Do you think Linfield is theirs to win it?
It's theirs to lose now,
enough,
to be totally honest. You know, and going back over the years, history, even back when I was playing, you know, we always thought when we got to January, February time, if Linfield were even 6 or 8 or 9 points clear, they would never lose the league. You know, they usually up the tempo, went on 1 more games and put a run together to go and to seal the league title. This year now, you know, you look at the inconsistency of some of the teams. Linfield haven't beat Glentoran this year, and they're 12 points behind Linfield. You know, Larne are, if they win their 5 games in hand, they go 4 points behind. It's very, very difficult. They're going to be playing Saturday, Tuesday. You know, Dungannon, as Paul alluded to, I don't think can sustain the challenge that they have. Simply, their squad's not big enough, and they will have a dip in form at some stage. You know, every team does. And if they don't, fair play to them. But I think they will. You know, so I think up there it will be between Linfield, Larne, and Glentoran. I can't see any other team even challenging at this moment in time. But if Linfield, I spoke last week and I said if Linfield go and beat Carrick and beat Portadown, with the games that Larne have, before they've beat Cliftonville, they play Glentoran. You know, if they can come out the other side of those with maximum points, then it's a real contest then. But I think if Linfield can go and beat Portadown and Larne don't beat Glentoran, I think it's definitely Linfield's to lose, and I could find it very, very hard for anyone to catch them.
Well, let's look into maybe the big 2 as well, and I'm going to start with you, Glenn, if you don't mind. Mindful that you still work for the club, do a great job. But from the outside, let's say, you know, for me looking on, I've written that they're top of the league by dint of the fact that I think they're the least inconsistent. I think Linfield have done remarkably well this year because I know how many injuries they've had to contend with and other things. But there doesn't seem to be a great deal of love, warmth, enthusiasm for this Linfield incarnation. You know, I don't know, a lot of the Linfield fans are a bit nonplussed by the team being... Is it to do with Glentoran, or is it the style of play, or...?
Possibly it could be, you know, over the years, traditionally Linfield and Glentoran is the biggest game, and both sets of supporters love to have the bragging rights. And unfortunately for Linfield this year, Glentoran have got the upper hand and their supporters have the bragging rights. But Linfield are top of the league. They're 12 points clear of some of the teams who are going to challenge. So Linfield fans are very, very hard to please at times. Come April time, if they get it over the line, they will be really happy. There's no doubt about that. But at this moment in time, there is supporters who are complaining about the style of play. Their supporters are complaining about the recruitment, about players, not enough players coming in. But as you say, you have to realise the injuries. Lost Sam Roscoe for 2 or 3 months, Ben Hall, Stevie Fallon, Robbie McDade, numerous players, and they've still they've ground out results. And now those players are starting to come back. That's why I think Linfield are in a position now where they can really drive on now and consolidate their lead at the top, because they've got players coming back, more options for David to pick from. And I think it'll be a challenge. Obviously, the Joel Cooper situation, people might have thought would have upset it a little bit. But Joel being Joel, as no doubt, he's continued to score goals and he's continued to play well. So hopefully that'll continue till the end of the season. And as I say, if that continues, I can't see anyone catching Linfield. And the fans will have to be happy no matter what. If Glentoran go and beat them in the Irish Cup, Linfield's pride and joy is winning the league title every year. That's what they're set out to do. If they don't win anything else but win the league title this year, they'll be happy.
Thanks, Glenn. Yes. Paul, Glentoran, your spiritual home. Where are we with this project? I would venture that maybe Declan Devine has stabilised the club, or the club is in a lot more stable footing. I spoke to him recently, Paul, and I said I thought he was brave in what he did at the end of last season. He clearly wasn't happy with what he was working with. There was a bloodletting at the Oval at the end of last season. He didn't need to let all the players go, but he did. Clearing of the decks almost, and brought a lot of really new faces in. It was turbulent. They had to settle in at the start of the season, but they've been very consistent. What's that, 10 unbeaten now?
Yeah.
They're in 2 cup finals, so. But tell me, where are Glentoran? Is it the cups for them, or can they mount a challenge in the league?
I think they've given themselves too much to do in the league, but certainly the cups. If Glentoran were to finish second in the league and win a couple of cup competitions, it's big improvement for them. You mentioned earlier they haven't won a trophy since 2020. It's a long time for a club like Glentoran, so it will be seen as progress. It has taken Declan Devine that bit of time. He got rid of 10 players in the summer. He's brought in players that he thinks fit the identity and what he wants to do at Glentoran, and I think that's what he's done well of late. I mean, you mentioned Linfield there, people are complaining about the style of play. I don't generally think the style of play Glentoran are producing at the minute is great to watch. It's not, I wouldn't say it's great football to watch or really entertaining, but what they're doing is they're getting results. They're getting results, and there's a real togetherness that I think Declan's created, amongst the players and the squad and with the supporters. There's been a real disconnect for a few years, I feel, between the supporters and then the club, let's say. So I think he's managed to get a togetherness within the club. There's a real feel-good factor at the minute. They're unbeaten in so many games. They're in 2 cup finals. They've got the Linfield Irish Cup game to come. There's so much to play for Glentoran. It's a good place to be at this moment in time. But can they get themselves over the line to that next level? Can they win those trophies? Can they get past Linfield in the Irish Cup? And can they go the next step? I think if they were to come second this year, win a couple of cup competitions, then next season they've got to be then looking to push on and win the league championship. I
think stability is very important as well. You're right. I mean, you can tell from Glentoran they're content, they're happy, they can see their team working. I think Declan Devine deserves a lot of credit as well. He did clear the decks and he brought in young players. Jolie, the goalkeeper, superb acquisition. Frankie Ved, great young players. And there are young players in this Glentoran team as well, like Johnny Russell, Aaron Whiteman, underpinned by senior players like Singleton and Soulé, and players of his ilk.
Glentoran this year have epitomised it with bringing the goalkeeper, the spine of the team, the goalkeeper. 2 centre halves have been good. Marcus Kane has played in there, and some of the games I've seen Marcus Kane play, he's been superb. Field Soulé and Singleton in midfield have been outstanding, and just recently Jordan Jenkins has come into the team and given a spark of life. He's scoring goals, which, to be fair and no disrespect, with Jay Donnelly hadn't been doing that, and they were struggling to find someone who was going to stick the ball in the net for them, and Jordan Jenkins has stepped up, and big credit to him for doing that, and he's taking the pressure off now, and they're going to win in games. The spine of the team and everybody else is just coming in around them. That's why they're doing so well.
Thanks, Glenn. Another thing we have to factor in here, Paul, I think as well, is the January transfer window, which we're halfway through. And we know from years gone by that it has proved pivotal. For remember, Linfield did very well in the market and won the league, got kicked them on Larne, the same with Andy Ryan. So business in the window, and we have to talk about Coleraine now. They're the big movers in the market, undoubtedly. They've had investment from Henry Ross, and they've signed Ronan Doherty. They're linked with Joel Cooper. Letters in for a lot of other players as well, because they're going full time from last summer. But what are the implications? Because we understand they're lucrative contracts being on offer. What are the implications for Coleraine in the short term and the medium term, and also for the league? Because when one team comes in and makes a splash, like Glentoran have done, like Larne have done, others have to play catch up.
Yeah, I just wonder what's the plan for Henry Ross? Does he want to build a sustainable football club? Does he want to, we always heard Kenny Bruce wanted the Champions League music to be played at Inver Park. What's the Coleraine plan? Is it a short-term project or is it a long-term project? We've seen that Larne was a long-term project, and they signed many players and spent a lot of money, but there seemed to be a real plan in place there, not just for the football club within the town. So I've yet to see anything concrete from that aspect from Coleraine. It just seems to be, this guy's come in and they're trying to identify the best players and throwing a lot of money about, and Joel Cooper being the biggest one so far, and Ronan Doherty from Cliftonville, who I think's a superb player. So I don't know. I just have my doubts about long term Coleraine, what their plans are, what they hope to achieve. But certainly, if they're going out and they're throwing money after the calibre of players that we've just talked about, they're going to make their team more competitive. The full-time aspect within the club now, it is a good football club in terms of fan base and the infrastructure, in terms of they've got the pitch and everything there. So there's a lot of positives there at Coleraine. But for me, there would be question marks just over the long-term sustainability, not just for them, but for other clubs too. There's a lot of money going about the league at this moment in time, and some of the fees and the wages that you hear, I'm going to myself, can clubs keep that up for a long period of time if they're not winning trophies and getting into European competition and getting that sort of money back? It can be difficult for them. They've just got to be very careful.
Not on their own either, I think, Paul. Thanks for your contribution there, Glenn. I'll bring you in, and sort of there's a wider aspect of this as well. There are profit and sustainability regulations coming into play in the next couple of seasons. Long story short, if somebody comes into a club and is a benefactor and throws, say, $500,000 or even $1 million into the middle in a year, and with no expectation of getting it back, that's absolutely fine. There are no issues. If it's an investment and there is some agreement or understanding that there will be a return, then that can cause problems. Okay. Now, from Coleraine's point of view, they've got a backer. They're going to do what Glentoran did, and hopefully Larne are the model. In fairness, probably when Kenny Bruce just arrived at the club, and said, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, people will be like, good luck. Now, and there's also a filter down aspect to it as well. If Coleraine have money, they spent money. Cliftonville got a few quid for Ronan Doherty, we know that. It's just about sustainability. Like, for example, Kenny Bruce has done it well. If Kenny Bruce is happy to throw in $500,000 or $1 million every year, no problem. If Ali Poor's happy to do it, no problem. But if investors get tired of putting money in and not getting anything out, I don't know what they do.
Yeah, listen, everybody will have opinions on it, and my own personal opinion is, in Irish League football, I think it is unsustainable. You look at the Larne project. Kenny Bruce put his money into Larne because he is a Larne man. He likes Larne. He wanted Larne to improve, and I think he went into that with an open mind. He was going to lose money in this, and he might not get money back. So when you look back, Ali Poor going into Glentoran, Ali Poor at that stage has no love for Glentoran. He's not an East Belfast man. Glentoran were, from what we hear, third choice. Coleraine, is that going to be sustainable? The money that it's being touted about, the players are getting, what players are being, transfer fees are being paid for these players. I would be very sceptical of it all happening and would like to see the small print on all these deals that are being done. If I'm a Coleraine director like Colin McKendry, who's been about the club for a number of years, or Coleraine supporters, I would be wanting to dig into it and have a meeting and say, listen, what is the whole outcome of this going to be? How's it going to work? If this guy reportedly, who was Ross, who's putting £10 million or whatever it is in, you know, is that going to be £2 million a year to make sure it is sustainable for a 5-year project? Is it going to be drip fed in at £100,000 every 6 months? You know, that's not going to work. And again, personal opinion, you know, Joel Cooper is leaving Linfield, the biggest club, or arguably one of the biggest clubs in Ireland, to go to Coleraine, and that's no disrespect to Coleraine. I would want to see to make sure that contract, get a solicitor to look over it to make sure everything's all rubber stamped. I wouldn't be wanting to get into something that I'm not 100% sure about. And I know everything sounds good when you're told, you know, you're going to get this, we're going to give you that, you're going to get this on a monthly basis. After the contract's up, you're going to get a coaching role, you're going to do this. I would want that rubber stamped to make sure that it's 100% watertight. But I'm just very sceptical of it. Listen, everybody who loves Irish League football wants football to progress, wants it to get better, wants it, but in the right way. We don't want a club going bust. For instance, use Coleraine as an example. If Coleraine were to go to bust again next year, you know, does that send a message to the rest of the clubs? We need to cut our cloth here, and then people then who are on big contracts might have to drop back. Clubs might have to go part time again. It's a minefield out there. So I think there's smarter people than me involved in football clubs who are looking at the financial side of it and everything else with the infrastructure of the club of going full time and how it works. So I just hope they've got it right, because it could turn messy for one or two clubs in the next year or two.
Thanks, Glenn. You're not Linfield family yourself, but so from the outside, I agree with what Glenn they're saying. You know, when I learned of, you know, that Joel Cooper allegedly has signed a pre-contract and will likely join the club in the summer on a good deal, I was shocked. You know, I mean, it's a statement from Coleraine, it has to be said, and Kenny Bruce made statements before, you know, bringing big name Davy McDade, I think was one that was, you know, when they were in the Championship. It was a shock. I think, in fairness now, from what I understand, one of the difficulties with Linfield giving Joel Cooper a lengthier contract was the fact that they are very acutely aware of these profit and sustainability rules, for financial compliance rules, FCR, coming in, and they didn't feel able to offer somebody a contract that maybe they wouldn't be able to stand over. So I think in this case, some clubs are fully aware of the implications of the rules that are coming into play, and some maybe catching up or not so au fait with them as yet. They're going to have to get au fait with them very soon.
Yeah, the teams are going to have to play by the rules, and you know, there's only a certain amount of money they can spend within their budgets, and they've got to be careful with all that. And I'm just going back to what I said earlier. We keep mentioning the Larne model, but Larne came in and it wasn't just about going out and targeting the best players. They put a structure in place throughout the whole club, and that's what I'm saying about Coleraine. I haven't seen anything like that behind the scenes. You know, Larne went out and put people like Gareth Clements in as chairman and Niall Kearney as general manager, and really built the club from the bottom up. And that's why they've been so successful. And it did take them time, but it's been successful. But for me, Coleraine, that hasn't really, I haven't seen that plan or anything that's going to happen. So I agree with Glenn. If I was involved in the club as a supporter, even as players, you would be wanting to know, you know, what is the long-term plan here? And you mentioned the financial fair play rules and stuff like that. All these things have to be abided by. And you know, I'm just from the distance, I'll be looking at it with interest over the next term.
Indeed. Now, while we're on the subject of Larne, I'm going to sort of talk about them playing in the County Antrim Shield next Tuesday night. It's against Glentoran, and happily we can dig into football talk now. Let's look at the two teams. Paul, if you don't mind, give us a wee insight into how you think it'll go. Where do you like Larne at the minute? Where do you like Glentoran at the minute? What do you think is going to be the difference in the final? And we have to pay credit. Going 5 years in a row. Did you ever win five in a row? Either the 2 years won? No, it's a remarkable feat. 3
in a row, I think, with the old Gold Cup. But he won 6 leagues in a row, didn't you? So
no.
You're part of that team. But anyway, it's no. The Glens have had a poor record against Larne. You know, obviously the emergence of Larne over the last few years. The Glens, I can't remember them beating Larne too many times. So that's something that Declan Devine will be reminding his players of. You know, this is a team that's had the one over on us for a few years now. They do play them in the league on Saturday before the County Antrim Shield final, but obviously, you know, people will have the eye on the cup final. Larne obviously going into it trying to win 5 in a row, and You know, on the any given night, Larne are a superb team. They've got a lot of quality within their squad, so it'll be a difficult game for Glentoran. I think Glentoran, I said earlier, they haven't been playing great, but they've been getting results, they've been getting over the line. That togetherness and that work rate has been getting them over the line. I think Larne will be a different proposition for them. I think Glentoran will have to play well to get anything out of first of all, the league game, and to get over the line in the cup final. I think they need their big players to stand up. You know, the Jordan Jenkins, who's been in good form. Fouad Soulé has been outstanding for the last couple of months. The big goalkeeper, you know, hopefully they'll have Marcus Kane back, who's been excellent for them. So I think the Glens have to play well to get over the line in the County Antrim Shield.
Thanks, Paul. I'm going to look at it, Glenn, and ask you, the two games Saturday on, but particularly Tuesday night, because there's a trophy at stake, Glenn. It could be a springboard for both teams, you know. And I'm going to ask you, can you ever remember being in a position where, you know, getting a trophy has given you that sort of impetus, you and the team, to go on and win maybe a league or an Irish Cup? Do you know what I mean? And I'm looking at both Larne and Glentoran. Glentoran aren't going in the right direction, aren't where they want to be just yet. Larne, you know, now focusing on domestic things. So a springboard for either of the clubs next Tuesday night, that's what it means? Yeah,
well, you're asking, is it happened to us? Like, you think about Morgan Day, for instance, whenever Glentoran beat us to win the league. You know, we won the Setanta Cup 2 weeks later, and then that galvanised us to go on. We done the clean sweep the year after. Glentoran need a trophy, and if you look at the two games, you know, the league game on Saturday and the County Antrim Shield game, I think Glentoran would rather win the County Antrim Shield. It's a trophy in the cabinet. It gives the club and the supporters more confidence, a wee bit of joy, because they can win the league game and still not win the league. Where if they have a bit of silverware, it gives them something to go on, you know, into the CIS, the League Cup, and, you know, gives them a bit of confidence to show that they can actually win trophies again. You know, Larne obviously will want to go at it in both fronts, because they still think they can challenge for the league. But, you know, it's like we've played in games, big two games back to back, and 9 times out of 10. One team doesn't win both games, so I think, you know, Saturday the league game will, you know, they'll be working each other out, getting into the game on the Tuesday night. But if Glentoran had the rest, for instance, a Marcus Kane or someone who's carried a small knock so they can play on the Tuesday night, I think they'll do that so they can go and give it their best shot to win a trophy. And I think Glentoran can win. I think they've got that bit of momentum now. They've got, as Paul says, they're not playing well, but they're finding a way to win, and that's very, very important when you go to a cup final, because 9 times out of 10 cup finals aren't a good spectacle unless you get the real rare occasion. But if you can find a way to win and dig in and grind it out, which Glentoran have been doing, I can see them doing that. Where Larne are more of a genuine football team. They want to win games by playing football, and, you know, Andy Ryan has to play well for them. You know, there's talk about Levi Ives and Kim Bulger maybe not wanting to sign a contract or moving on. You know, that can always play in their minds. But, you know, getting into the County Antrim Shield, I think Glentoran will win it. That's my call on it.
Thanks, Glenn. And what I want to say about the two teams, I think we've seen maybe a bit of resilience and character from both. Larne, we know, have been under pressure, did so well getting into Europe, and then it, you know, was a step up in class, as I said, but lost Tiernan Lynch, and then Nathan Rooney he came in and stepped back. I really think those two wins over Cliftonville and Crusaders, the other way round, after losing in the Cup, showed character and determination. And also Glentoran, Declan Devine mentioned it there this week, they've come from behind in many games now, you know, and he said himself, maybe last year they'd have folded.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair statement, and they've got that resilience now. I mentioned before the togetherness, the fans are getting right behind them, and that's made the difference for Glentoran. And, you know, going into the final next week, they'll be full of confidence, and it's a massive game for the Glens. And you mentioned the springboard; it will be great for them. And, you know, Larne getting knocked out of the Irish Cup, you know, they'll be going into it as well, thinking, you know, we've got a chance to win a trophy here. You know, they were knocked out of the League Cup as well, so it's a big incentive for them now to go and win that trophy, and then can they mount that challenge in the league? So it's a massive game for both clubs.
Certainly is. Getting the end of the show now, and just time, would be remiss of us not to look at matters at the bottom of the Sports Direct Premiership. You know, I have to say, in my opinion, Loughgall look to be in a bit of trouble. They've got 13 points from 24 games. Carrick second bottom, they have 21 points from 22 games. Glenavon, one of your former clubs, Glen, 25 points from 23 games. How do you see it panning out? Can you see Loughgall? Paul, I'll ask you first. Can you see Loughgall doing a Harry Houdini act?
I don't see it. I think they're in a really difficult position now, and they was the surprise package last season. What they achieved last season was phenomenal. People would have expected them to go straight down last season, but they came up and they played really well. They took the league by storm, but this season's been more difficult for them. Teams then, they weren't a surprise package. Teams knew what it was like to go to Lakeview Park. I think they lost the goals of Benji McGee as well. It was a big factor for them, and the league's just become more competitive. Teams around them were signing players and strengthening their squads, and I don't think Loughgall have got that same quality, and as a result of that they find themselves down at the bottom, and I think it'll be very, very difficult for them to get out of that. Carrick are just above them. The emergence of Glenavon under Paddy McLaughlin, they're on a good run at the minute, and that's going to give Carrick that battle. Can they get out of the second from bottom spot? Because it's obviously a playoff position. No one wants to be there. Ballymena ended up there last year, so it's all to play for down there. And Carrick are in a difficult spot, and they've invested heavily too. And Stephen Baxter is in there. Can he get them out of that? Paddy McLaughlin looks as if he's on the right track for Glenavon. So interesting battle around there. But Loughgall for me, too much to do for them now.
Thanks, Paul. Glenn, your views, and I don't mean to be dismissive of Loughgall at all. I've huge admiration of what Dean Smith has done there. Benji McGee, I think, was a loss, all right. So, are they looking like the ones, for whom the trapdoor will open? And is it now maybe a battle royale between Carrick and your old club, Glenavon, to avoid the relegation playoff spot?
Yeah, I think it is. Loughgall, as we said, have done brilliantly last year to get the points on the board to make their season safe last year. This year's completely different challenge for them. As Paul said, teams have worked them out now. They know how to play down at Lakeview Park and pick up points down there. But they're finding it very, very tough. When you come out of the Championship and you come into the Premier League, you need to sign Premier League players to stay in it. I don't think Loughgall have done enough of that. I don't think they've signed enough Premier League. They've still got a lot of Championship players, and ultimately that means they're probably going to end up back in the Championship. The other ones, Carrick and Glenavon, will be tight. Paddy McLaughlin, I think, will be a bit more pragmatic than the previous manager, Stephen O'Donnell. Simply he'll just go out and try and do what he has to do to get points on the board. Stephen's more of a football man, wanted to play the right way, but Paddy's experienced, he'll pick up points, and at Carrick, a lot of good players on paper who have been signed and brought in through the door, but they're not getting the results that they should be getting. And it's going to be a test for Stephen Baxter. He has been in that position since his very early days at Crusaders. When they first came up, when they were struggling. So it'll be a test of his managerial skills now to try and get enough points on the board. Not just to get up, but get out of that playoff, because in a playoff position, anything can happen. When you look at that Championship, you've Bangor and Limavady and Anna, all capable of beating Premier teams, has been proven over the last number of weeks. So whoever it is won't want to finish second bottom, because they'll know they'll be in a match. So it'll be interesting. But listen, fear for Loughgall. Loughgall to me are the ones who are well being back down again, and then the battle, for that playoff is it's going to heat up before the end of the season.
I think you're right, Glenn. I think you've nailed it there. A lot to play for between the league, survival, cup competitions, finals. The games are coming thick and fast. That's it. Glenn and Paul, thanks as ever for your contribution and your company. That's us for this show. We'll see you the next time on Football Express.